Hello, hello, hello. If there's anybody out there, it's 6 o'clock. The reason I mention it is 6 o'clock is because in the evening times, when it is 6 o'clock, I show up on Facebook and on YouTube. And let's see, let me silence myself. So it is Thursday. It is January 21st. It is 6 p.m. If you're watching this and it's not 6 p.m. in Dallas, you're probably watching a recorded version, and I won't be able to interact with you immediately. If you are watching in a timely manner, live, and you wish to post, I can responder, s'il vous plaît. Okay? Hello, everybody. Lisa, Chris, Becky, Joan, Kathy. Hi. So, I am sparkly today. Hey, Paul. Yeah, I'm live, baby. You know how you could tell I'm live? Because you just posted something in the comment section and I responded almost immediately. There's a clue. If you were a Sherlock Holmesian type of person, ladies and gentlemen, and you saw this transaction just now, you would say to yourself, the odds are he's live. How do I know he's live? Because I just saw somebody, Paul, posted a comment and Ken very quickly responded appropriately. That's part of the key, appropriately. Thank you, Chris. I think it's nice lighting too. By the way, what you see, hello, what you see is my bicycle wheel lighting that my daughter's got me that I haven't quite figured out. I don't know that I ever will. I showed you this back on Christmas when they gave it to me. Okay. Anyways, my daughter's got this for me. I have to figure out how to use it on a bicycle. It's going to be challenging because the control module is rather large. And for those that know me and my biking, there's not much room left on my handlebars because I pretty much use everything on my handlebars. I am definitely not Memorex. So, anyways, I'm having a little fun, right? Made myself a little, I don't know what you want to call it, crown or whatever. And let me tell you, today is going to be comedy day, but I'm not providing the comedy. Here's what I came to the conclusion of. You should all be happy. You won. When you laugh, the world laughs with you. And so I took some Jimmy Carr stand up and I posted in the thing. And the reason I chose Jimmy Carr is he's probably as good an inappropriate humor as anybody I've heard. There are some others I'm working going through their repertoire, but I'm impressed with Jimmy Carr. He leaves no inappropriate comment unsaid, and I that helps me to kind of just go with the flow. So after the show, feel free to click on a link and watch Jimmy Carr. I posted two different, one is a short one. It's called Lesbians, Lesbian Humor, and the other one's called Bedroom Advice. I didn't really have a chance to listen to much of Bedroom Advice, but I like him. So if you don't like that one, find another one of his. It's a tiara. I must be a princess. And I make as good a princess as anybody could. I am on top of the world. I may be a queen, all right? Here's the thing. My side won recently. I haven't had a lot of wins to go in the win column recently, okay? Let me examine what I'm talking about. So the last time I had a real solid win was probably going to Thailand and living with some very cool monks and really enjoying myself. My first time in Asia, it was It was incredible. You know, it was so unusual, so different, that I really, really very solid. And I stayed there. You know, I figured if I'm going that far, man, I ain't coming back that quick. And I'll end up staying 2.5 months. And I'm very pleased that I did it. I'm pleased with the time I spent there. I'm pleased with the hundreds, maybe thousands of photos. Okay, solid win. Prior to going to Thailand, I was on kind of a not so great spell. I had the president, Donald Trump, and it was plaguing me. It was just plaguing me for a variety of reasons. Some of you can understand those reasons, some of you can't. It doesn't matter. We're not going to go into it. We won. Okay. So that's the only relevance about Donald Trump is that his presidency was a bummer. And it was a lingering bummer. It was an extended bummer. It was an elongated bummer, right? Okay. So I got to Thailand. Everything's kind of cool. I'm out from under all that. I come back, literally come back into COVID-19 pandemic. Within a short period of time, one of my dearest friends in the world passed away very quickly after I got back. And that night, literally that night, the pandemic started. I mean, it didn't start. The pandemic closing took place where I live. So that was, so since then, that's March 16th. Since then, you all know what's been going on because pretty much I've been here every night reporting to you. So we know there was kind of a cascading down. And by the way, there were things like personal relationships that were mixed in, interacted in there. There were other emotional hardships and up hardships, easy ships. I don't know. Anyways, there was some give and take, but in the main, I suffered a serious emotional setback right around the time I went to Thailand. Nothing I could do. It wasn't anything I was in control of. I just had to go with it. And one thing I've learned since I got clean and sober, I don't take methamphetamine. I don't take alcohol. I don't have to nurse my wounds with drugs and alcohol. Okay. But one of the things that so what I did was within the context of 12 steps and my Buddhist meditation was I navigated these emotional difficulties with a certain amount of dignity, you know. No, I'm telling you, I was dignified. I walked away from some emotional upheaval without too much angst or exhibited angst, right? So jump ahead. I come back to the United States, and I probably should take this off because it's going to be distracting. Y'all are watching that, and you're not watching me. Anyways, I'm just making stuff up. So my eyeballs were beginning to flash. So slowly but surely over a number of years, I have had to learn to simply be present for whatever unfolds. And in large measure, the last 4 years, hey, Debbie, Joan, Becky, so cool. What I've had to do is I've had to learn to get through hard times, whether they're financial, emotional, intellectual, psychological. I've had to get through them and to set an example. So let me explain, set an example. I think it behooves all of us in the most difficult of our times or other people's times. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Debbie Lanovich. I didn't see you over there. You're on screen number 2. So going through really intensely difficult times where what I would like to do is just shut down. But part of me says, one, no, shutting down's not a solution. Drinking, drugging's not a solution. And not only that, but we all have friends and relatives. And when we're in troubled waters and they're looking at us, I think it behooves us, when possible, to kind of walk through with dignity. I'm not saying you don't suffer. I'm not saying you don't emote. I'm not saying you hide, suppress, repress, whatever the difficulties are. I'm saying that you do it with a certain sense of honor, maybe is part of it. In other words, let's say it's a personal breakup between a man and a woman, right? Um, I know a lot of guys that are obnoxious. They are vengeful. They're stalkers. I've met guys that do all kinds of negative things. And when you say, why are you doing that? Essentially it comes down to, well, she hurt my feelings. Now you can blame her. I've heard all the excuses. She took my money. She took my car. She took my kids, whatever it was. Vengeance is always like one of the worst options in an emotional upheaval with a significant other. And so I don't do that. If nothing else, I've never felt it was the right thing to do. And second of all, I got children, and I feel like it behooves me to model my behavior. So when my children see me encounter difficulties in life, they have some sort of guidepost. How do you get through this? Do you throw a temper tantrum? Do you uh, do you get rageful? What do you do? What's good behavior? What's good behavior is to simply be present and manage the circumstances with a certain sense of dignity while being expressive. So my daughters, for instance, when I got divorced, they know that I was hurting. I didn't hide that from them. They knew my disappointment in what was going on with their mom and stuff. There was no call to hiding that. What they didn't have to manage was me going off the deep end about the anger that I had. And I had a lot of anger, but I never felt that that was going to be a good route. Uh, I expressed anger uh, in a moderate tone. I explained to my daughters why I was hurt, how I was hurt, and what I was doing about it. And I also explained to them that whatever was happening between their mom and I played a role in. That nobody just hurts me. That somehow I played a role. Because again, I'm modeling for my daughters, or maybe I'm modeling for friends, or maybe I'm modeling for enemies. I don't know. But by looking at my part in it and copping to it, I hope it shows other people, places, and things around me that there's always two sides, number one, and there's always something we can do. We can do something about ourselves. We can't almost ever do anything about any other person, whether it's a friend, a lover, a spouse, a family member, a brother, sister. Can't do anything about a boss typically except for quit. Whatever it is, we can deal with the emotions, be expressive appropriately, and then move forward with difficulty. I move forward with difficulty. So, anyways, I had a rough year. The pandemic was like taking anything that I thought was rough, whatever problem I thought I was having, the pandemic was like a multiplier. Okay. So overlay the pandemic, the COVID-19 virus, and uh, shutting down and staying home, quarantining, whatever it is, stay in place. Add that on top of whatever emotional difficulties I experienced with family, friends, or whatever. It exacerbated it. It made it feel worse. It made it more difficult to move forward because I couldn't rely upon things like going to dinner with friends and just having fun, right? I couldn't, or I didn't. I guess I could have. So here we are. It's January 21st, and some as as the Buddha said, all things are impermanent. So what happened between my wife and I, that's in the past. She ain't hurting me today. She's not doing anything, and I'm not doing anything to her. She's not doing anything to me. So here we are. I moved through it because that's something else. Let me tell you that. Years ago, I thought the best way out of pain was to wait it out. you know, uh, Time heals all wounds. So I remember 1981. In 82, I had a plan. My feelings were hurt. I loved this woman. She broke up with me. So I decided a good strategy was to snort cocaine for until the pain went away. Time heals all wounds. I don't want to sit around while time's healing it. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay stoned as much as I can until that didn't work. That strategy didn't work. It got me to treatment though, and treatment worked. I got into treatment and they were like, wow, dude, you manufacture your own problems. These are not external. This is internal. It's an inside job that's killing you. So, all right. So I know that now. And every time I get into this messed up space and place in my head and in my heart, I'm like, all right, well, I got to go through it. I can't go over it. I can't go around it. I can't, under it. There's nowhere to go but through it. So today, it's a couple of years now. I went through whatever I had to go through with the missus, the divorce, the kids, blah, 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 blah. And that's what I do with all these difficulties that visited me. And now I started to tell you on January 21st, I've got some light at the end of the tunnel. And it was a freaking train coming. No. That's usually what it is. In other words, as soon as I get out of one dilemma, man, you've heard the saying, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I was taught, yeah, it's another train coming. Well, this time there's been an election. So at least temporarily, I have been relieved of the pressure and the difficulty of waking up every morning. Chris and I were talking about this morning. It was hard to wake up for the last 4 years and not wonder what evil plot had been unfolded overnight while we were sleeping. What was going on in the United States that was just going to hurt us to the core, right? So anyways, that part's over. Doesn't mean there isn't going to be some difficulty, civil strife, civil disobedience. I don't know. But at least the pressure point, somebody took the thumb off the pressure point a little bit, and I'm feeling better. Also, socially, I have a couple of new friends, and I have a couple of old friends that I've been spending some limited time with. Okay, so I stayed in place. I did. I went out bicycling. I had outdoor lunches occasionally, but just this week, I have this friend Cynthia. And Cynthia's married. We've had this friendship which has evolved when you're walking. I mean, you walk for 7 miles. Try it. Try walking for 7 miles with somebody. Don't wear any headphones, no earbuds. Don't take anything to distract you. Just walk and talk. Or if my friend Paul is still here, who I bicycle with on Saturdays, bicycle with somebody for 4 hours or 5 hours, maybe 4 hours of biking, 1 hour of sitting and having breakfast together. And you're sharing and you're caring. And there's just no way, typically, that you will feel worse. And so I've got these. Cynthia is like a newcomer to the lineup of people that help me navigate my difficulties, right? And she's really just a swell human being. And you land up opening up. Chris has been a gift. I've known most of you for a while. Chris and Becky have been like this completely new gift, and it came about in this ass backwards way. I knew somebody on from my meditation, who then befriended me on Facebook, who then had a friend who communicated something on Facebook. And I said, well, if you're having trouble riding your bicycle, this is my thing. We rode one day. Then the next time we rode, Chris showed up. I don't know Chris. We chat, we talk, we find out we've got a lot of stuff in common. New friend. Put that up in the win category. Meantime, I know people that aren't very good at making new friends. And I lament that for them, because there's something special about that newness. It's like meeting a woman or a man or whatever, a flirtation, whatever your flirtation is, same sex, opposite sex, man, woman, man, woman, man, whatever it is, right? So there you are when you first meet somebody and you start talking to each other. It's really kind of swell, don't you think? Because First off, you seem interesting to them because they haven't heard every one of your freaking stories yet, right? I mean, it's kind of a drag when somebody says, "Yeah, I've heard that story before. I've heard that story several times." You know, which a wife will often say to you, "Yes, we know," or your kids will say, "Yes, we know." So there's something kind of magical, uplifting about sharing yourself, opening yourself to somebody and having them go, wow, that's interesting. And they share with you new stuff. You don't know them. You're like, wow, that's interesting. In Chris's case, I know something about his motorcycle days, and there was some parallels. He's crazier than I am, I give you that. But what I'm saying is, as he shares his experience, his strength, and his hopes, um, I'm interested. I haven't heard any of these freaking stories, right? So there's that. When I ride with my friend Paul and we spend hours, it starts out with just riding. I can tell you that when we first started riding, there were a number of things I didn't know about him. Most anything I didn't know about him. Years later, there's almost nothing I feel I can't share with Paul. Whatever, whether it's good news, bad news, no news, doesn't matter. I have permission by virtue of the time we spent. And remember, I've told it here before many times, you can't make new old friends. Old friends can never be replaced. But the next best thing is to make some new friends. Does that make sense? New friends. Anyways, in other words, it's good that several years ago I met Paul and we biked. It's nice to meet Chris and bring him into my life. It's great that I've got Kathy and Joan and Mark that I've known since overnight camp when I was probably 12 years old. Right, Joan I met online a couple of years back. Kathy, God, Lisa, hi Lisa. I don't think I saw you earlier. Anyways, I'm making new friends, and I tell you, it's with each new friend, it doesn't have to have the same depth, right? They're the walking and talking, and I will tell you, if you've not walked and talked, do it. Find somebody if you can, and make it a point to walk and talk. Like I said, no earbuds, just and do it. Do it multiple times. Do it many times. Because the first several times, you're not exactly. Okay, I digress. Also, my friend Cindy, who I told you has this organization, this company called One CBD, you know, and she's a kindred spirit. I mean, we met, and it was a very quick connection. We're liberals in a very harsh environment. And we had other mutual interest, even though she's got an accent from hell, man. She's from Ardmore, Oklahoma. And I'm like, when her accent might as well be French or German or something, right? Because I'm from Chicago. You may have noticed that although I live in Texas, I don't always sound quite like I'm from Texas. So when I'm with people that are really, really, really from the South, sometimes I struggle to understand or certain words I used. She told me something one day and I said, wow. And she said, wow, what's wrong with yay? And I'm like, yay? Wow kind of says what I meant. But when she told me what yay meant, I said, well, yeah, okay, I'm down with that. I didn't know that yay was really that much different from wow. So, and my friend Ginny, we had lunch this week. We had a nice long lunch at this chicken, kind of a fried chicken place. And we had deviled eggs, like really expensive deviled eggs. And we had really expensive fried green tomatoes, followed by some kind of Louisiana chicken sandwich that we split. Like Lisa says, good friends are one of the best parts of life, and I'm losing the old ones. I don't know about you guys. Those of you that know Debbie, on here she's Dobby, but she's Debbie, or know Kathy Green. We go back to the old hood, but they were not my buddies. My buddy was Kathy's brother, the dearest friend, one of the dearest friends I ever had. Gone. It's like sudden, right? Traumatized. Well, spent a few years, moved through it, but losing them. So, then you meet somebody like Chris or Paul or whoever, my friend Cynthia, my friends, and you begin to fill your life up again. You begin to refill the vessel, the reservoir of love, the reservoir of kindness, the reservoir of fellowship begins to be, you know what I mean? When you empty some, you refill it. I don't know, so that now my cup is much fuller than it was at one time. When really, quite honestly, it was pretty much empty. I mean, there was so much grief, right? There was so many losses. And so you pour out your heart, you pour out all your emotions are just, they're going one way, man. They're going one way. You lose a Gary, you lose a Jerry, you lose a Susan, I lost two Susans. The numbers are significant. And I think that grief, in large measure, is a one-way emotional street. It's really hard in a loss. I don't care what you guys do or what I do, when you commiserate, right? When you get with people who know the person you lost, they were friends too. You commiserate. You're like, God, Gary was such a great guy. So Kathy could say, that was my brother. Debbie could say, that was my old friend. I can say, that was my dear friend. But in reality, most of the time, during grief, there's an outpouring, not an infusion of. So it's been very important to me in the last year, or the last several years combined, but in the last year, there's been some reinforcements. Because Paul Graham, who's probably not here anymore, he couldn't handle the load of being one of my only new friends. I'm just too complicated. I'm just too messed up. I'm just too demanding psychologically for any one or two friends to handle. So anyways, reinforcements arrived. They arrived in the form of you guys. When I say you guys, I mean Chris and Becky, Lisa, Debbie, Joan. I'm talking about Mark and Ann and Ann Sisler, who's probably not here today, and Lisa and this podcast became reinforcements back in March. It was something I had to build. I had to walk with you over and over again. I had to walk and talk with you. I had to, just keep opening up and getting some stuff back, right? I had to start getting filled back up, because even at the beginning of this podcast back in March, it was still an emptying of the vessel. I just got on here and I talked, and the amount of comments and feedback, of course, was limited. It was limited because there tended to be fewer people. It was limited because people weren't really sure how to even interact with a podcast. There were all kinds of logistical difficulties and just practical difficulties. Well, we've overcome that. I have a certain expectation that I can come on here, and while all of you won't be here every day, I know with God as my witness, Kathy Green will be here with me. If she's not, either something's wrong or she's gone somewhere. She just can't be at her computer, right? I know that most of the time, Joan and Becky and Chris will be, Mark and Ann, it's something I can count on. And this begins to fill the reservoir. This begins to put back in me that sense of goodwill, that sense of connection, that sense of community that sustains me, us, in times of trouble. And then, boom, shakalaka. January 20th arrives, and we have a new president, whether you like it or not. We have a new president. And so after 9 months or more of commiserating, now we can be celebrating. Now we can look at each other and we can begin to go, wow, did you see that? Clouds are lifting, baby. Did you hear? They're going to do something they're going to try to do something for these several million people that are immigrants, illegal immigrants in the United States, but are in a status that protected them. They're called the Dreamers, right? And the Dreamers, 4 years they just spent with the Trump administration trying to kick them out of the country after years and years of adhering to the difficulties that we required of people who wanted to remain here under the Dreamer program without a clear path to citizenship. And now Joe Biden says, I am going to do everything I can to provide a path. Now, I heard there's 11 million of them. So my expectation is the Republicans will never agree to anything because here's their thinking. That's 11 million Democratic voters. That's why the Democrats want to do that. I don't think that's necessarily true. I hope that's not true. I hope we're doing it because it's the right thing to do. But if you've ever listened to the Republicans discuss it, they will tell you the Democrats are doing that. They want those 11 million votes. They want to beat the next Trump by instead of 8 million, 19 million. I hope it's not that cynical. I'm not that cynical. I just like to see Joe Biden as president written. It's a nice thing. It is a nice thing. Thank you, Debbie. The trick is, Debbie says we never would have made it if it hadn't been for you, is no, I wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for you. And then we got Debbie Lenovich over here, or Lenovich. I think I know how to pronounce it, but anyways, she's a newcomer on the YouTube page. And she was here yesterday briefly. She's here today. I can't tell on this page, the YouTube page yet. I don't know how to use it. So I don't know if somebody's still there or they moved on. It doesn't give me any cues yet, or I haven't learned how to look for cues. But I know on the Facebook, I get some cues if anybody's here or nobody's here. By the way, Debbie on YouTube, if you're still there, make a comment. That would be reassuring. I know I'm not talking to myself. Oh, Debbie, that's you? That's cute. How do you do that? Well, you can tell me another time. So you have more names than Carter's got pills. Mark Q? You talking about QAnon? I mean, why did you just type Q? What am I missing? So, Debbie, you're not there. You're back over here. Got it. All right. I'm going to start promoting my YouTube channel, by the way. So when I saw Debbie with a different name, I'm not going to throw out her last name because she uses a lot of other names. So I'm not going to expose Debbie's full name at the moment. You got me totally confused. So anyways, all right. Back to what I'm saying. So it took time. Hey, Donna, welcome. It took time to be present in a podcast, doing a monologue for 45 minutes, day in and day out, to get to a place where it wasn't only going out, it was coming in. Joan asked me a couple of days ago, I think it was, she said, are you fishing for compliments? And I laughed and said, no, that's not what I was talking about. And I wasn't. But then I wrote her back a few hours later and said, well, maybe I was. Perhaps. And by that I meant, I don't suppose there's ever a time when I'm doing a podcast when I don't hope I'm connecting. And connecting is in and of itself a compliment. You dig what I'm saying? If people feel genuinely connected to you, and all you, Mark and Donna, Debbie, Mark, Chris, Lisa, everybody, if I'm connecting with you, and I think I am, because I can't think of a single freaking reason you would do this more than one time if you didn't feel connected. And as time went on, I felt a connection. It became important to me to show up because I was going to get something sustaining. I was going to get the cup filled. I was going to feel a sense of relief talking, getting it out, just vomiting sometimes the ill feelings I had towards Trump or towards some other thing, but mostly Trump. So uh, the last couple of months, I would say, starting about, I would say in the last 60 days, things are significantly better. Nothing better than November 20th, the election. Why do I say that? Because that had implications globally. My personal love life or my personal difficulties, friends getting sick, my car breaks down, my daughter won't talk to me, whatever that may be. That's not global in any way, shape, or form, right? Trump was truly, for me, a global issue like the pandemic. The pandemic and Trump were global issues. So, two things we now know. One, Trump, in the meantime, is out of the picture and we can breathe a sigh of relief. Even if you're Republican, please feel free to breathe a sigh of relief because we won't hate you so much now. You're a Republican. You can be like a Steve Schmidt Republican or a Elizabeth Newman Republican, a Republican who speaks truth to power, who doesn't want to lie, who wants to call out the Republican Party for abandoning basic democratic principles, right? So, you know, that was magnificent. November, whatever that was, the date where the election, November 8th. When was it? Doesn't matter. The election foretold that things would get better. It was rough. It was rough. There were a lot of threats, and legal threats, physical threats, all kinds of threats, and I, for one, didn't know if we would make it to January 20th. But we did. We did. The pandemic has not abated. In fact, the pandemic itself is now worse than it's ever been. The deaths are more numerous than they've ever been. But while that was inevitable in the absence of any leadership trying to remedy uh, the ravage of the pandemic, of the COVID, we now have people getting vaccinated. And while that's going slow as molasses, it's what we call hope. It's a sense of optimism, right? It it takes away some of the edge of the COVID-19 virus that even though people around us, people we care about, people we don't know, 400,000 in our country that are dead, tens of thousands of people in other countries that are dead. And by the way, we should never only solely focus on the dead in our own country. When we feel goodwill towards and compassion and kindness for people here, please always think. And then there's all those other people who are in countries where they don't even have freaking medical care available where they're dying. People who are in situations where before there was a pandemic, going into a medical care facility could be a death defying act, right? So here we are. We do know there are vaccines. We do have reason to believe that they will have some efficiency, and we are in line to get the vaccine. And we're being told, let's see, 37 million doses distributed. It would just put up, I try to monitor this stuff. Well, thank you, Lisa. 17,546,000 doses have been administered. Now, that doesn't mean 17 million people, because a lot of people are already getting their second dose. A lot of people. But 17 million it's a mosquito bite. They're talking about we need to do 1 million people a day. But I'm not here to Zoom. I'm here to Zoom, right? And what I mean is, finally, we all have some reason to believe that we're coming through this. I may be a COVID victim and die, but that's that's just the way it is. Everything's impermanent. I'm impermanent. You're impermanent. But if I were to disappear tomorrow from COVID, you would still have the optimism that you and or your loved ones, for Kathy, it'd be Marcus. For all of you who are married, it'll be your spouses. For Donna, it'll be her fiance. So here we are. Here we are. Yet another reason to perceive the world as improving despite what has been a torturous year, a year filled with bad news on a daily basis. That's the way I feel. You may not. If you're a Trump supporter, you surely don't feel that way about preceding the election. But in the main, most of you felt the ill effects of kids being placed in cages, of riots, of George Floyd being murdered by a policeman who sat on his neck for what was it, 18 minutes or something, some extraordinary time, right? We have not remedied our ills. We haven't remedied COVID-19. We haven't remedied discrimination, racism, homophobia, misogyny. We have not remedied anti-Semitism, white supremacy, all these ills. They're still here. What we needed was a freaking break. We needed some freaking good news, because Lord knows, if you were sensitive, if you were liberal, or if you were a moderate, you were getting a crap load of bad news. Let's pretend you don't care about racism, but you woke up to race riots the past year. Let's say that, you're not gay, but you got a family member that's gay, and you woke up to the LGBTQT community being attacked, or Nazi swastikas being painted on synagogues. I know most of you at some level, and I don't know any of you to be anti-Semitic. So I assume, and I think I assume rightly, that when somebody defaces a Jewish cemetery or a Jewish synagogue, that you felt the pain that was felt by the Jewish community when you saw this uprising of Nazi sensibilities, right? Yeah, Chris and I were talking. Today you wake up, you don't have that feeling of impending doom that's been following us for 4 years. And again, maybe you were a Trump supporter. I'm not throwing you under the bus. What I'm saying is that even if you were a Trump supporter, you surely found yourself taxed by the rhetoric, because the rhetoric fueled this division between us, this polarization. And so even though you had a good heart, your heart had to be saddened, had to be covered in this layer of difficulties that your friends were experiencing, that I was experiencing, that Kathy was experiencing, that Chris was experiencing, because you cared about people. Because I don't know any Trump supporter people, I don't know any, I'm not saying that, who don't have friends like me, who don't have friends like you. So surely they must have suffered to see us bent out of shape, to see us struggling to understand, to grasp, to wrap our arms, our minds around the difficulties that were just pouring out of this administration. But the pendulum, for the moment, it may not be swinging back this way, but the freaking pendulum, at least it stopped swinging for the moment. All right, it's time to do some meta. And thank you for letting me ramble. It's not what I was talking about. I started the show with, when you win, you should be able to laugh. When you laugh, the whole world laughs with you. So listen to Jimmy Carr. If Jimmy Carr's not your cup of tea, yeah, go on the internet. Google Phyllis Diller, man. Google George Carlin or something, All I'm saying is, we're on a roll, baby. We're on a roll. Okay. I bring my hands together before my heart. And I am, Lisa says, I'm very thankful for your wise words. It's been a comfort. And Debbie says, we love you. And Mark says you were looking for cues. I got you now. Um, you've all said, you've all shared kindness with me. Every one of you at one time or another. Mark and Ann, um, Chris and Becky, Debbie, her sister Tammy, all shared kindness with me. And I want you to know that when kindness enters me, I'm going to make every effort, as I've been doing, to magnify your kindness so that when I share kindness, it is magnified by the fact that I have had my cup filled by your grace, so that when I bring my hands together before my heart, when I bow my head, when I close my eyes, and I think to myself, may I be happy, healthy, free from harm. May I be free from anger, anxiety, and fear. And may this practice lead me to a life of greater peace and comfort. I have all of you to help to thank for me arriving in that space. I wish for my mother and father, my living family members, and all my friends to be the recipients of this magnification of my affection for you. That all my family and friends will know I wish for them to be happy, healthy, and free from harm. I wish for them to find a path that leads them to lives of greater peace and comfort. And to those persons I find difficult, to them too, do I wish nothing but the best in this moment. May they be happy and healthy. And to all living beings, wherever they may be throughout the universe, nothing but good, no bad, living lives, safety, comfort, and peace. Satu, Satu, Satu. Doorbell is ringing. Gotta roll. Thanks, Mark.